You're listening to the Scandalous Beauty Podcast, a makeup and beauty show hosted by Erin Bainham. Hello. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're interviewing Danessa Myricks. This is a really highly requested episode. And Danessa is a makeup educator and a makeup artist and a photographer. And she does so much work. You've probably seen her on Instagram, with those beautiful photo shoots. So she is doing the makeup and doing the photography for those. And you probably have seen her products all over the internet, all over social media. She has a huge line of products, and her foundations are just, literally hit every skin color out there. So a lot of the questions that are being asked today came directly from you. So basically what I do is I let everybody know ahead of time, hey, I'm going to jump on a call with said artist, and I need you to let me know what you want to ask. And basically what happens is I get your comments through Instagram, through Twitter, through Facebook, and through voicemails on my website. So if you would like to participate at any time, I do have interviews coming out all the time. If you would like to just go ahead and give us a follow, Instagram, I'm Scandalous Beauty, and Erin Bainham, either are fair game. Twitter, Erin Bainham, Facebook, same name, and Scandalous Beauty. All those links, plus the links for the products we're going to mention today, and the resources and the classes and all that good stuff. They're all in the show notes. So you can check that out on the website, scandalousbeautyonline.com/podcast/Danessa. And wherever you are listening to this podcast, there is a description area. In that description area, you will find all the links that we're going to reference as well. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much for hanging out. This is the Scandalous Beauty Podcast, and we talk to the best in the industry about beauty. And we talk to artists, we talk to influencers, we talk to just all over the board. Two of the people we're going to mention today in this episode include Sam Fine. We all know Uncle Sam, the greatest, and Nikki Posley, who is also a makeup educator that you've probably seen at the makeup show and other places. So here's a quick clip from a previous interview with Nikki.
Social media can beg a certain amount of comparison, which can become dangerous, but it also can sort of foster the need to sort of replicate, duplicate, or sort of fit a mold. And I think that if you find the space, time, and courage to really hone in on what your lane is, the work that you put in it's still work, but it becomes easier and it becomes more worthwhile because, you're building something that hasn't been built before.
All right. So if you're interested in checking out any of the previous episodes, we've had Sam Fine, we've had Nikki Posley, Malika James, Billy Brasfield, so many different people, This That Beauty, Felicia Walker Benson, Danielle Gray, just so many people. So if you'd like to check out previous episodes, they are all over the internet, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Mixcloud, YouTube, you name it. My website, they're everywhere. All right, let's dive into the episode. Everybody is really, really excited about this episode, and I am just going to go ahead and start off by saying that I took one of your makeup classes back in 2005. It was the first time I ever went to New York by myself.
Shut up.
Let me tell you something. It was amazing because you were doing like hair shows back then. And I remember being like a really, And ma'am, you were like a fortress. So I was just doing, this is crazy. Like, this is like really, really crazy to me because, I was, doing hair not doing hair, I was doing makeup. My hairstylist encouraged me to do makeup because I loved it or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And she was like, just come with us when we do a photo shoot because you have to see this woman, Danessa Myricks. She does like bomb hair. She sells DVDs.
That's it right now.
Yeah, I promise you. So when I got there, I just remember being, yeah, so excited to see like this is what makeup artists really do, but also so intimidated because y'all were like you were in all black, like you had a team, you had lights, you had all this stuff that like nobody else had. So I took a flyer because you had your flyers out, you had everything on display, and which was brilliant, which was so brilliant. And I don't know where I
Oh
got the
my
money from,
God.
but I made
You are
my way to
taking
New
me
York.
back.
Oh my goodness, which is so crazy because I'm like, this is the same Danessa Myricks, and it's just amazing to see where you've gone because you had already made it then, but to see where you are now, like this is
Oh
just
my God. This is so humbling
yeah,
and like freaking me out a little bit because
yeah,
you forget, sometimes you forget where it all started.
yes,
And like you said 2005 and I cringed. Wow, that's crazy.
like
Oh my
legit.
God. The
Well,
funniest part of what you said is that you felt that I had made it back then. So
isn't that amazing? Like in my mind, if I could,
yeah.
fast forward to now, I mean, I would never know your beginnings or anything, but let me just tell you, I
Right.
kept that like you had these they weren't binders, they were like these plastic like portfolio things. I remember it had a blue rim and it had a ton of it was just papers with like face chart, but you showed how to do like highlighting and contouring for each face shape and then you had all these instructions like written
Yes.
out and I kept that thing probably until like I don't know when did I get married? I got married like 4 years ago. It
Oh
was
my
still with
God.
me. Yeah.
Oh my God. This
Yes.
is so crazy. Okay, first of all, thank you for this walk down memory lane because I'm sitting here feeling so grateful right now because it's really humbling.
Oh, you changed
Everything is
lives.
definitely in perspective.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So thank you for even sitting down and talking with me because I know you were a busy woman. I'm watching like Instagram and I'm like, oh, she is hustling and I'm not mad at you. So
You were so sweet. No, thank you. I really appreciate you even wanting
oh
to hear anything that I have to say. So we
girl.
make time for things like this for sure.
Well then so I don't know your backstory. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you blew up?
Yeah, well, oddly enough, it's so funny. It's so funny. The funny part is when I started doing makeup, my career previous to that was in corporate. I was working for a publishing company. Yeah, and they happened to publish like hair and beauty magazines. Thus, why you saw my first entry into the business at a hair show because that's all I knew is like makeup that was done in a hair environment. And so the publishing company that I worked for, I was working a very corporate role doing like advertising and marketing and things of that nature. And the owner of the company decided after me being there for many years that he just didn't want to do it anymore. And he wanted to focus on real estate and other things. So literally I had like 30 days to like find a new way of life. And that's really pretty much how it all started. But
Wow.
when I was there, I was like this super nerdy person, like the uncool girl to be honest. Like and I just would always see the makeup artists and hairstylists coming in to do shoots for the magazine and they always seemed so happy and that I always felt that their lives were so much better. They always were dressed like you said, all in black but really cool. I'm in my gray and beige as boring as ever. And they always like the hair was all done up and they just had some swagger about them and I was like, oh, their lives must be so amazing. You know how you just look at other people's lives and the grass always looks so much greener.
Yep.
And I was totally just enamored by the fact that they could just go to work and be creative every day. So I just decided, you know what? I watched these makeup artists come, and some of them were really good, and some of them were just okay, but they all got paid at the end of the day. And oddly enough, they were all getting paid the same amount of money. So I was like, you know what? I'm a makeup artist. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going
Wow.
to be a makeup artist. And I just decided that I was just going to do that because I was like, if you can kind of learn on the job and be bad and get paid, then I could do that. And that's how it all started. I never even used to even do makeup back then. Like fancy makeup for me was like blue eyeliner. I wasn't like even a makeup girl. So the whole thing is just pretty hilarious.
My mouth is wide
But
open because I'm like, I didn't expect that.
no, it's kind of crazy. And then, so I literally just like went to Google and was like, who are top makeup artists? And like Sam Fine and Kevin Aquan were like the ones that resonated with me the most. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have any makeup. I'm just gonna look at their work. So I had two books, Fine Beauty, and I believe it was Making Faces from Kevin Aquan. And I just read the books, and the books made no sense to me, to be honest, because that just was the way I processed things. So I really just looked at the pictures. I just kept looking at the pictures and like trying to get an understanding of what it should look like and trying to figure out how it should be. But nobody would ever let me practice on them because, again, I never did makeup. I had no makeup. And they were like, what are you doing? You need to go get a job to feed your two kids because I'm a single mother of two. So it was like a little crazy space because people were like, you're out of your mind and get focused, go get a job. And I was like, no, this is a chance for me to like reinvent myself and do something that's fun and earn money having fun every day. So I was really focused. And finally, a girlfriend of mine told me that she had a friend that was getting married, and if I was a makeup artist, that I should be able to do her makeup. I was like, of course, I'll be there. And it was on a Saturday, and I had no makeup aside from the little odds and ends that we collect like over the years in our and put in a cabinet and never use. And I also had no money. So I had to wait until Thursday when my unemployment check came, and the check was like $405. And so I took 200 of the $405 and went to Walgreens and bought makeup. And I brought my book with me. And I was like, okay, I need a sponge that looks like this. I need some eyeshadows that look like this. I need a curler. That basically built a $200 kit in Walgreens and went to do a wedding on that Saturday. And that's pretty much how my career started.
Unreal. Unreal. So you made a way out of no way.
I'm ashamed to tell that story. I'm ashamed to tell that story because I could have ruined somebody's wedding.
Okay, that is true, but but you didn't, and that is like
Yes, it
the
all worked
ultimate.
out.
Yes, and that's like the ultimate like come up story because it's like there are people all over that's like, yo, I don't know how I'm gonna ever be able to learn, especially like at this time where like everything is on Instagram. It looks like everybody has everything, everybody is sponsored,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it could be
yeah.
probably frustrating for people, and that story just lets us further know that you just gotta go for it. So that's like
You know,
that's
I think one of the things that I've learned through all of these years is like so much of it comes from just like who you are as a person, just trusting your own intuition and your own like guidance. I think now because there's so much. Back when I started, there was no information available. There weren't schools. There were nothing like that. There was no YouTube. There was nothing. So you had to be creative. You need to figure out things and discover things on your own. I think sometimes it's a disadvantage. It's like a double-edged sword to have so much information that you're frozen, or you have so much information that you don't follow your own gut. You feel like you have to copy and do what everybody else is doing. So I could see how if I was starting right now, I would be doing the same thing. I'd be watching every single YouTube video. I would be believing everything that I saw scrolling in front of me. I would just like want to know and like believe the people who like it seems have the answers. So I totally get it. But I think the beauty in this business and the beauty and the success of people who are in this business is when they are authentic and they bring their own little juice and magic to the picture. Because it's not so much about how much information, how much school you go to, and how much information that you're able to learn. It's like how much of you are you putting in this to make it distinct and make someone interested in what you have to offer. If that makes sense.
ooh, that makes so much sense. And I was waiting to get into the interview a little bit before I got to that. But since you went ahead and went there, we
My bad.
no, in a really great way, in a really, really great way. So I did a call on Facebook and asked people to submit questions. We actually got a lot of questions.
Okay.
And one of the questions was just about that. So Patrice from Afrobella said she wanted your
Oh,
perspective. I
Patrice.
know, the best, which is really exciting.
I love her.
Isn't she the
Yeah.
best? And then right after that, when she commented on it, Jackie Ina chimed in right after that and said she just loves your positive outlook on
Okay,
things.
first of all, I'm obsessed with her and everything about her. And because she's so authentic, I love her more and more every day.
Isn't she
Like,
everything?
yeah.
I mean, Jackie is everything,
Wow.
and yeah, and
Yes.
I'm hyped that she's hyped, and I'm hyped that you're here, and it's just a whole lot. It was a whole lot of Black Girl Magic happening in this post. So
Yay!
so so Patrice's question is
Okay.
let's see, how do I say it? She's actually just making a statement. So she says, I want to know her perspective
Okay.
on the industry and the way it's evolving, and what does she hope
Hmm.
to see change or emerge? She's a pioneer in her field.
She's amazing. I mean, for me, like my perspective on for me, it's not negative or positive. It's pretty much just what, like I said, like people right now are it's at a point where you have to kind of sift and sort to find yourself. Um, when I look at the industry right now, I feel like it's a super exciting time for people to like live their dreams through this industry because, when I think about when I got started, like to get a client, like we had to like print out cards. If your name wasn't in a magazine, nobody would know who you are. It was like the epitome of the hustle. Today, somebody with a bright idea or with some just a talent can just do a picture or a little video on YouTube or on Instagram and then become an overnight sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember that the young boy James Charles, who was the cover boy, I remember when he just started. I saw him at an IMAX. He was like, "Oh, I love makeup so much. I'm just so excited to touch it." And that
Wow.
excitement now has him at like millions of followers and probably making more money than everybody who's listening to this call. You know what I mean? So for me, that's exciting because who wouldn't want to be in an industry that's like that? But at the same time, looking at it the flip side for all the pioneers, I feel like for most people, when you speak to new artists, they don't even know who they are. They don't
Right.
even know who the people who paved the way are. And it's like, it's, it's disheartening a little bit because I can imagine being on that side of the coin as well. And it's almost as if you don't exist because you don't have, X number of followers on a social platform. But they all, like, again, paved the way and continue to create like a standard for the industry. So I think now it's just a little bit of a confusing time because there's no way, it's really hard to sift and sort and figure out the real story, you know. So I think what's going to happen is, there's always these shifts, right? So I think now it's all about, that new voice, that someone is just coming in and doing something that's fresh and exciting and who's engaging and they're getting all the attention from media and from brands. But the bottom line is that there is like a baseline of information and education and quality, and there are like industry standards that aren't going to go away. Like, you can't like work at doing editorial work without having a basic understanding of like color theory, and knowing how to work with multiple skin tones, not just one, not just your own. You can't really teach until you understand the fundamentals and you know how to like dissect and give people a process on how to do things. So eventually it's all going to sift out when people realize, I can only watch somebody else do makeup 100 times, so many times before I realize, there's more to this. You know what I mean? I also think that the unique and authentic voices are the ones that will rise to the top because after a while it gets boring. It's like you said, you scroll, you can't determine one person from the next. Like it all looks like the same. It might as well be one person's page. But I think the people who stand out are the ones that like have their own unique voice and they're doing something that's different, and not just doing something that's different because they want to be seen, but just doing what they do, just doing them. And those people will emerge and rise to the top and be what's interesting, and what and it's what people want to pay attention to. So it's going to continuously like shift and shake out. But what I do know about the industry right now is that there is opportunity for everyone, no matter where you are, on what side of the coin you are, whether you've been in the business for 20 years or you've been in the business for a day. Like the exciting thing about this industry, and I think what will continue to be exciting, is that, it's here for the taking. There's so much, and that's incredible.
Well said. That was really, really well said. Thank you for that. That actually
You're
answers
welcome.
yeah, that answers a couple because a few people did say, what does she think about Instagram makeup? And I know that just a few months ago, I got to interview Sam Fine, and he said it, you know, in one way. And I interviewed Billy B, and he went off. Like, he just went off, off, off. He
Right.
was just over it. And you said it in a really awesome, more gentle way, which was really great. So,
Okay.
but overall, I
You know what's interesting is that there's makeup for everyone. So like that makeup on Instagram is somebody's makeup. It's somebody's town. It's somebody's lifestyle. It's someone, and it's usually belongs to a generation or that it's someone's makeup, if that makes sense. So there's nothing wrong with it. There's other people who have like beautiful work that's someone else's makeup. So I just think it's not about like, I think when people think that it's the only style of makeup is where it gets a little tricky because there's so much more out there. But, I believe in everybody embracing what feels good to them. So if that's what feels good to you and that's what works socially for you in your life, then so be it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good answer. And then let me ask, this isn't on the list of questions, but when was that
Yeah.
point when you decided to go ahead and create your own makeup line? Because there were already lines out there, but yours came out
hmm
and your foundation range is ridiculous. It is
Thank
just,
you so much. I appreciate that.
oh
I
my,
appreciate that.
yes, I remember going through Instagram, and Nikki Posley had all your swatches on one hand, and just seeing from lightest to
He
darkest.
did.
Oh my gosh.
That was one of my favorite posts ever, and I
Yeah.
love Nikki so much. He's another person that just stays true to who he is as an artist, and he's just so brilliant in what he does. I love him, and that like really, but the excitement. I reposted that thing so fast, you had no idea. Because it really made me feel good. When other artists that you respect and admire, see value in something that you've created. I mean, like that's really a humbling moment. It's like you have to like just sit and take a breath on that, and that's what that moment was like. For me, like what a lot of people don't know is that I started creating makeup back in 2004. So
Wow.
even before you took that class, because I was so naive about the industry. I was so it wasn't a lucrative space for me. So I was always having to find creative ways to do dynamic things with makeup. So I was always mixing and matching and layering things together in order to like create an impact. Because, the makeup that I was buying was really inexpensive. I was going to craft stores. I was like paying $2 and $3 for it. So in and of itself, it wasn't really like this shebang kind of a product. But when I mixed and matched and layered things together, that's when all the magic happened. So I wanted to just create just that thing without having to like, shop beauty supply stores and layer a bunch of stuff together. So I started just really small, like I had a whole philosophy on how I learned to like do eyes in a dynamic way. And I was always using creams and I would use like glitters and pigments and things together. So my very first collections were just that. It was collections of, pearls, glitters, and creams. And that was the very first thing that I sold. It kind of was like in sets. We had something called the bionic lip, which basically is what the glitter lip is today, that whole glitter lip. But we started it back in 2004. And I used to do
Ah,
that for eyes and lips and sell combinations of that. And it just kind of grew from there. Back in the beginning, education was really what I sold, selling DVDs and selling education. So that was my primary focus. But I wanted to like be a part of this whole process of creating. And that was really just where I started, which is really small. But through my education and through those few items that I created, it caught the attention of other brands who wanted me to create makeup for them. So while I was like slowly working on things for me with a very limited knowledge and just using, just the resources that I had in front of me, I also started creating makeup for beauty supply store brands. And it kind of opened up my eyes to the whole process of development. And through working with those brands, like I've launched maybe 7 or 8 brands through the beauty supply stores.
hmm.
And through that education and through that exposure, I started creating makeup for prestige brands as well. So over the course of, I would say, about 10 years, I got a really broad understanding of not just the industry, but how makeup is made and how makeup is made on a lot of different levels and where the products are coming from and, how they're sourced and how they're packaged and all those things. So with that education, I was able to reinvent my brand afterwards. Like the things that I used to create became irrelevant. And my mind went more towards innovative thinking and creating products that did not exist. And that's when this new launch came 2 years ago. So I launched with first the highlighters, the light powders, and it literally started with four powders, and now we have 22 shades. Then it went to like the metals pigments. It started with three, and now we have like 18 shades with all different levels of pearl and reflection. And then we did the lashes, the elevation lashes, and that was like a big launch. And then we moved into Color Fix and the foundations. And I think once Color Fix and the foundations launched, it changed everything because it was two super unique formulas that did not exist and performed differently than what was out on the market. And I think that's what changed everything for me as a brand. So
So,
funny.
yeah, I'm geeking out. I'm sorry because and then as you said it, and you were talking about like being a pioneer and doing things. I remember two things from the class that stood out to me a lot. And one was you had this picture of a woman who had like it was a black smoky eye, but it was like a cream smoky eye. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And I
yes,
remember
I do.
yeah, we all like wanted to know what you did there. And I just remember thinking like, how do I pull this off? And of course we tried to pull it off and it was separating and we didn't realize you can't
You're
just
so
walk out
funny.
like that. This is editorial. But another thing that I remember you teaching us that kind of like effed us all up a lot was you were like, with concealer, you can go as light as using white on anybody. And we're like,
Yeah, yes,
what?
yes,
Do you still like teach that?
yes.
Do you still say that?
I do, and it's interesting. But now I've learned to refine that communication so that it makes more sense on a broader level. And I owe a lot to my early influences in makeup. When you talk about Sam Fine, you talk about Kevin. It was beyond just putting on a shade to match somebody. It was about building dimension, reshaping, transformation. So my entry into the industry was always from that perspective. And what I've learned through that process, seeing what they were able to create and then seeing what I was able to do, whether just thinking about shadow and light and shape as a primary focus, now when I do education, that's really where my process starts. It's less about telling everyone what to do. It's more about giving them a baseline level of understanding so that with this information, they can create whatever they want.
Hmm.
So one of my biggest, I have two big philosophies that I train. One is about light. I'm always focused on light. For me, the light is the driver. So light could be lighter shading, light could be reflection, but it's what we focus on. So when you pay attention to how light creates shape, you could do really magical things with makeup. So that's a process. And I always also teach about working in threes. I have a philosophy called the power of three. Everything that I do with makeup encompasses three textures, three colors, three layers. The three is what sets everything apart for me because when you use two, you get like a layer but when you use three, you get dimension. And dimension is what brings your photo, your model, the image to life. And I use that same philosophy even when I'm shooting in photography. It's really all about working in multiples of three in layers of color, layers of light. So my approach in classes is very different now. I do, before I used to show people what I do and give a baseline of information, but now I focus more on showing people how to create their own voice because I know that that's what's going to make the difference for them long term in their career, their own authenticity and their own unique artistry. So I try not to make it so like duplicate me what I do. It's more about this is how you're going to bring out the best in your artistry, keeping these key things in mind.
Hmm. Now, okay. talking about education, Joanne asks if
Hmm.
you do one-on-one lessons.
So yeah, I do. The only thing is, there's never a day available on the calendar for me to do that. So
Okay.
because I travel so much, so and I've been thinking a lot about education. Actually, last year I thought a lot about it because I wanted to find ways to really like do more of that. Because honestly, that's what I'm most passionate about. I always teach at the makeup shows. The makeup show is like a forum that I will forever participate in because they put so much of a focus on education. But I did want to be able to go back to like the experience that you had, like doing small group trainings or just trainings that are focused just on my philosophy of makeup. So what I am working on, I've done a few things. I have an app through Myricks Beauty, which is like an ongoing educational platform. It's $2.99 a month, and you can get trained from me all month long.
Oh.
So I thought that that was a cool thing, really inexpensive. I'm also launching, I had a series of DVDs. I think we got up to 20 volumes of DVDs. They were
Oh
like
my
2 and 3
God.
hours long,
Wow.
about process. But I don't do those anymore because nobody buys or watches DVDs anymore.
Yeah.
But what I am doing is I'm launching a new online class, and it's all about skin and my philosophy about skin and light, and that's going to launch really soon. So it'll be super inexpensive, and people all over the world will be able to access it and watch it as many times as they want. And I'll be doing live sessions and things within that platform as well.
Ooh.
And then this year, I really do plan on like, I get, recently I did a post like, where should I go? Because like I get emails every day, come to this country, come to that country, but I really wanted to go like where where there was the most amount of people who were really interested and just do like spend a year like just out on the road around the world. And so that's what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to be going to as many countries as I possibly can, just expanding the brand and also doing classes. So this year is going to be full of education.
Oh, snap. People are going to be so hyped.
You're so silly. You are so silly. You have
Oh,
to come to one. Like you have an open invitation to whatever one you want to come to because I would love to hear your perspective from the first one that you attended to the new one,
I'm going to
to this new
go.
space that I'm in.
I'm going upstairs to tell my husband as soon as I get off. I'm like, you're keeping the kids for a weekend. I don't know where I'm traveling to, but damn it,
Okay.
I'm going.
You're hilarious. You're like, I have no idea where I'm going. Well, you can come to London because I haven't announced it yet, but I'm going to be in London the first weekend of June. That's going to be my first class. So you're the
Oh,
first to know. No one knows that, but
oh,
you.
oh, oh.
Um,
Do you need me to cut
so
that
tell
out of
me
the
you're going to
podcast?
London June 3rd.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Will do. I'll be there. Love it. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh gosh, there's so many questions. All right, I'm gonna try not to keep you all night. Nikki asks about your collaboration with Limelight. She is so excited that you are teaming up with Limelight by
Yes.
Alcone. Can you tell us about
You
that?
know, it's the first of all, I mean, I'll tell you what I can tell you.
Okay.
First of all, let me just say that Limelight is such an extraordinary movement. If you ever have an opportunity to like meet someone who's a part of Limelight or go to any of their like conventions, literally, you'll get chills because I've never seen a large, just such a large group of passionate, really passionate, positive people, and just with makeup being the vehicle that they're using to like create like independent financial success for themselves and their families. And it's really just designed to, for the average woman, it's like bringing pro level makeup to the average woman, which I thought was an extraordinary concept. But beyond just that idea, that their ideals as a brand will really just knock your socks off. It's like empowerment to like the 10th power.
Wow.
So I was really excited when they came to me to ask for me to work on extending the shade ranges and just bringing a little bit of my makeup energy and philosophy to the brand. So I can say that there's so many amazing things that are going to be launching that I really want to for myself, but I'm glad Limelight will have it. But like really spending the time to like create like textures and colors that are going to be meaningful for them, as they build their business through Limelight Outcomes. So it's super exciting, and it's going to be launching really, really, really with a capital R soon. So I think that's all I can say.
Oh, oh, all right. That's good. That's good. Excited to hear more about that because Limelight is one of those companies that I know a couple of people that do stuff for them and they
Mhm.
rave about it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I have to find out what is so exciting about this company. So I'm excited to see that you're teaming
No,
up and yeah.
just say yes. That's
Okay.
all. Everybody who asks me, I'm just like, just say yes because it's a magnificent movement. I
Awesome.
love it. I love it all. I love what they stand for. I would just say yes. And the quality of the products are extraordinary.
Ooh.
And they're so committed to making sure that there's really good stuff that, the participants have to sell, to build their businesses with. So I would just say yes.
Nice. Yes. All right. I will take it. What about your support for the Scandalous Beauty podcast is brought to you by Ecosia, an ethical and privacy-friendly way to search and browse the internet. They use their profits to plant trees and to regenerate deforested land around the world. Really cool. When you use the Ecosia search engine to look up Danessa's Vision Cream Cover Foundation or her Illuminating Veil Highlighters, or when you're ready to see when iArtist or the makeup show is in a city near you, you help generate ad revenue for Ecosia to donate. Now, Ecosia has created a URL for Scandalous Beauty listeners to plant trees together. Please visit ecosia.co/beauty to plant your first tree today. You can find the direct links right in the episode show notes. Your Kadeen asks, why did you
Mhm.
decide to stop doing celebrity work? And what is it about that world that deterred you?
So, I mean, nothing's wrong with celebrities because they're people, but I think in anything, you kind of like as we move through our lives, you kind of know what's for you and what's not for you. It's just like dating. You try something, and you're like, you try it on. If it's great, if it doesn't, you like to move on. So for me, like doing celebrity work happened very early in my career because I did makeup for Hype Hair magazine. And Hype Hair magazine, they do any R&B singer, any actress, anybody who's of color and in the industry, they're going to be in Hype Hair magazine. So pretty much I had a chance to touch, celebrity faces very early on. But for me, that industry is very like it's all about service, the entire industry, but being of service to one person felt to me like work. It felt to me like if this is your look and this is your style, I'm going to be doing the same thing every day, like homework. And it wasn't exciting for me. And also, I like to know, like, I like for my environment to change. I get bored very easily. I wanted to like grow in my artistry and like I can't like stick feathers on people's faces, put string on them, grease them down like with Vaseline and take photo like that's never gonna happen. I'm never gonna like expand as an artist. That's how I felt at the time. And I also wanted to be of service to more people. Like it's so much more fulfilling for me to work with the masses of people, like people who are just like me, who are like on the same path as me, and just extending my hand to pull them forward. It's just not my thing. It just didn't resonate with me. Education resonated with me, like creating things, creating product, creating resonated more with me. And I really didn't think that I was in enough of a creative space in that environment to want to say. So it was nice to say, like, when you first get started, you're like, oh my God, if I could just do a celebrity, I've made it. But then once I did it and I realized that like my life didn't change, I wasn't like cartwheeling and I wasn't like settled and I didn't feel like I was done. It just wasn't that place for me. And I also, very shy and very introverted. I know it probably doesn't appear to be that way, but I am. I'm very much an introvert. So being in a new environment in a celebrity space is a very specific thing. Like you don't just have to be a great artist. You have to have like the personality. You have to, your spirit has to be able to flow and function in those environments. And it just, that wasn't who I was. I really felt uncomfortable most times. I didn't feel like I could do my best work because if I'm not comfortable, I'm never going to do my best work. So I just found spaces that made me feel good. Education makes me feel good. Working in labs, creating things makes me feel good. And that's honestly been my philosophy throughout the rest of my career. Like I follow my good feelings. That's it. I don't care how much money something is paying. I don't care how popular it is. I just do what feels good to me. And it's worked for me. Even when I'm doing things that are like exact opposite of everyone else is doing, I found if it's something that I'm passionate about and it feels good, suddenly it turns into profits for me. It turns into the next magical thing. So I would say that to anybody who listens to this interview, like just do what feels good. If doing celebrity feels good to you and that's what gets your juices flowing and makes you want to jump out of bed every day, then do it. You know what I mean? But I also understand it's not for everybody. I meet people all over the world, and there are people who are just so happy and passionate when they can just do the girls in their neighborhood for their proms and quinceañeras and weddings, and that just makes them like super excited, and they thrive in that vibe. So there's levels to this. You know what I mean? So people just would forget what everyone else is doing, stop looking from left to right, and just do what feels good. That's when all the magic is going to happen.
Oh, God, that is a fantastic message because over and over, I feel like I hear, celebrity is the epitome. And, honestly, even when I think of, this podcast, I was like, I want to be able to interview celebrity makeup artists, but why is that the threshold?
Right.
Like, why is that the benchmark? It doesn't need to be. So thank you for saying that. And that's very encouraging, I'm sure, to a lot of people.
No, of course. Yeah, for sure.
So Camille says, she wants to know about your cultural background and how it inspires the way you paint.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm obviously a woman of color. I was born and raised in New York. I'm a native New Yorker. My dad was from Dawson, Georgia. He's from the South. Um, and my mom was from New York. So I know a lot of people think I'm Caribbean or from Africa. I'm sure at some point I am from Africa, but I wasn't born or don't have any like immediate lineage there. But I was born and raised in New York. My father really was the driving factor behind everything that I do from a business standpoint. My father, he didn't go to school at all. I think he went to school for like a couple of years and then he had to work in the fields for his dad. So he never had a chance to go to school, but somehow he managed to buy us a home. He managed to run a business. He had business from the moment I came out the womb, DNP house cleaning. He had a huge business that was able to support, a family of 9.
Ooh.
So, and I've always seen him working. And I remember being in junior high school teaching my father how to read. And so clearly he went from much of his life being able to provide for his family even without, a junior high school education. So that always spoke to me.
Mm.
Um, so I always have had like that drive to be able to provide and create regardless of what the circumstances are. We grew up really, really poor, obviously, but my mom, she was great in like inciting that creativity in me because even though we were really, really poor, she always found ways for us to go and do creative things. So she would like go and pick up scraps from like wherever she could would be and bring it home to us and put it on the table and just make it seem like it was the most exciting game that we've ever seen in our lives and have us build things and make things. I remember like not ever getting like a dollhouse like for the holiday, but we made doll houses and race car tracks and skates and all of this stuff with our bare hands with milk cartons and egg crates and boxes and like we were always creating. So because so we never even realized how poor we were. I don't think it
Yeah.
was until high school till we realized, oh, wait a minute, we're sharing clothes here. Everybody else has their own. But we were always in a creative space. My mother told me a story a few months ago about, she said I had went to the backyard and made like pies, like mud pies, and decorated it like really beautifully with like leaves and stuff from the backyard, and that I was on the corner selling slices of mud pie for 5 cents. She was like, you were an entrepreneur from when you were a child.
Oh,
So
wow. That's great. That's a
we've
really great
always
story.
been creating, yeah.
That is so
So that's where
awesome.
it all stems from.
That's
I'm
great.
never afraid to make something.
Noticed. I've seen, yes, we've been watching The Empire like left and right. All right. I'm leaving you alone. I have two more questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
So Brooke says, I'd love to know the first makeup application trick that blew her mind. So what would that be?
Um, hmm. I would say using multiple shades of foundation.
Hmm.
Um, so I think back in 2005, probably when you started coming to the classes, maybe end of 2004, is when that really, that epiphany came to me. Because, all I knew is what my mother used to tell me, find that shade, find your shade. And that's what mostly you go to the department store, you think you can go to like counters and learn how to do makeup. And everyone's like, well, first you gotta find your shade and then
Hmm.
everything else comes. But then, it wasn't until like the the 2000 was the year, because I think that's the year my first DVD came out, where I really mastered using multiple shades. To do a face, because that's when makeup became transformational. So that was my first big aha moment. Like, duh, you can use more than one, and then using more than one to shape a face is what took my artistry to another level. So I think that was like the first.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I don't remember, like, I'm trying to think. I'm not trying to take everything back to that class, but I know that,
I
back
know, I
then.
love it though. I love it.
That was like a really, that was, yeah, that was such a, I know, a huge moment for me. And I always, oh my gosh, I remember like those Friday nights where I would pop that DVD in my Dell desktop
Oh
and,
my gosh.
pull that out. But it was
Well,
just, uh huh.
it, what's funny about what you said about using white, in that first DVD, that's the one where I used white. And that was like my very first DVD. And there was a series of 20 DVDs, and my artistry changed over that whole trajectory of my career. But the first DVD was the top selling DVD. We sold like 11,000 copies of that DVD.
Wow.
Even after the other DVDs were out, like somehow that using white was like the thing that got people really, really excited, because that's how I did contouring back then. I would paint white and then add all the other colors on top,
You ain't never
which is
seen,
kind of crazy.
we
So
ain't
it's
never
funny that you keep going back to that.
yes. Because I've never, I mean, like, I can almost hear you say, like, you can use concealer as light as white. And I remember, like, look, I was like,
Hmm.
maybe she didn't mean to say that, but no,
No, definitely white. Yeah.
mind
So
blowing.
I've definitely refined my skill set, because I realized, like, if you want somebody to look incredibly natural and fresh, and you have to come up with different strategies. So, but the concept of using white, which basically was the light, is what I carried and matured and evolved throughout my career. So now I do it differently, using highlighters, using underpainting techniques, creating light in different ways, or just using shades of foundation that are like closer, not as contrasty, to do the same types of things. So that same philosophy, I still utilize the same philosophy. I just refined it a little, a lot of it.
Gotcha. No, that totally makes sense. So, if we want to learn from you on, around the country, I know you're, as you said, you're doing the
Hmm.
makeup show and things with the powder group. Can you also tell
Hmm.
us about iForum and the makeup show and like the differences and what we need
Oh
to
my
go to?
God. So yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. Like for me, like I'm cannot tell you how passionate I am about this program. Having the opportunity to do all of these shows over the years, I mean, I meet a lot of people, a lot of artists at different stages of their career. And I hear lots of questions, and I hear them talk passionately about what's missing for them in order to move to the next level. So last year, I realized that I wasn't the only person that felt like there's more that can be done. There's more we can be of more of service, to the community that we're reaching. So Shelly Tagara, who's the owner of the makeup show, James, I think everyone knows James Vincent, who is in charge of education for the makeup show, and myself, we sat down and we're like, why don't we do something different? Why don't we kind of like take a look at everything that's happening right now, everything that we're offering, and then see like what more can we do? And that's where iArtist was born. We wanted to be able to work with small groups of people and bring them to the types of education that they don't normally get in a show environment. And that's not to say that there's not tons of great education out there. We realize that there's tons of great education out there, but it's like you go, you sit, you watch somebody do makeup, you hear them talk, then you go home. And so most people, you could pick a little here, pick a little from there, but there's not really an immersive experience where you can come out of an educational experience and be changed and do more and be more. And that's what iArtist is all about. It's like, we don't want you to just sit and watch somebody. We want you to be immersed in the educational process. So it's very immersive. You're doing, you're thinking, you're a part of the program. And then we have presenters that are different than what you would normally see. Like, for instance, you can learn color theory pretty much in any makeup show. There's going to be some type of workshop or some type of program based on color theory. But, who's the best person for you to learn color theory from than Pantone? Like, Pantone is presenting at the forum. Like, yeah. So it's that level of education. Like, it's a total shift where we have people in and outside of makeup presenting. So many people want to be able to start a brand. They don't know where to begin. The iArtist Forum, we're doing a whole series of discussions on branding you as an artist personally, creating a brand. If you want to create makeup, like, people have an opportunity in a small group environment to not only ask questions, but also get action steps that are going to, like, when they leave the room, they can do something. Photography has been a big thing on a lot of people's minds. There's a lot of artists now who want to kind of control their work. I know how my life and my business changed when I started shooting. Like, as a photographer and a makeup artist, my whole makeup style changed. The type of work that I get has changed. The amount of money that I make in a day has changed. How I create makeup has changed, all from just infusing another skill set into my back pocket. Ooh. So, and there's so many people who want to be able to be at home and create great work that they can post on their social to get new clients. So we're going to do a whole day of education on photography. Oh. And so in that, they're going to actually be able to hold a camera, take pictures. We're doing a whole concentration on lighting, explaining to people, like, even if you don't want to be a photographer, you mastering lighting is going to make you a better makeup artist. So we have a whole segment on lighting. We're bringing veterans in the business. Matthew Jordan Smith was somebody who I came up knowing and loving as a photographer in my career. I mean, he shot everybody that you can name. He shot them. He's like travels all over the world. He lives in Japan now, but he's done everything that you could think about when it comes to photography. He's teaching those workshops. He's flying from Japan to come and teach that intimate session. Whew. So it's like the level of training. So the level of training that we're offering is just different. It's people that, people don't ordinarily see in a show environment. So we're kind of like trying to raise the bar in the quality of education. But then the bigger part of that is now giving action steps and follow-up after the platform. So even after the show is over, we're doing 6 months of follow-up with all of the participants and adding ongoing pieces of education. And there'll be all different types of things. Like, some people will be able to come on set with some of the artists that are there. We're going to do live group trainings afterwards. So if you can't physically come someplace, you could be a part of live group trainings. There's going to be all kinds of things that we do just to make sure that we follow up with the participants and make sure that they were able to take that next step, whatever that next step was for them. So it's a different look at education. We're really taking the responsibility and taking ownership of the information that we give and making sure that we could be a resource that they can utilize afterwards as well. So this forum is very different than any show. It's not like a show that anybody has experienced before. And we're really proud of the program that we put together. It's happening in San Francisco in exactly a month from now. And I really urge anybody who is even thinking about it a little bit to just say yes. Follow their gut and just do it, because I believe the program that we put together is going to change people as a person, and it's going to change their artistry and how they view, their brand and like themselves afterwards. It's really different. It's really special, and I encourage anyone who has interest in that to just bet on themselves and just take that next step and to be there with us for those few days.
Damn. Sold. Sold. I don't even want to be a makeup artist, and I am sold.
You're so you are so funny.
That is so great. Like I really, really love that. That's hitting a lot of different things that, you're right. You can't get it at the makeup show. You can't get it when you're hitting IMATs or something for a couple of days. This is
right.
That's really intense. That's great. It sounds like a great program. So yeah, I'm gonna let
really
you.
Excited about it.
Yeah, no, and we just want to thank you for coming on the show and talking to us. And
oh my God, thank you for having me.
Isn't Danessa the sweetest ever? Everyone told me when I was gonna interview her, they're like, "Oh my gosh, if you get to talk to Danessa, that'd be amazing. She's so sweet. I love her. I live for her." And I see why. She was great when I took her class. I mean, I remember her being so sweet. And even when I was a super shy 18-year-old that walked up to her table, thinking I'm kind of a makeup artist, but not really. And then going up to an actual makeup artist with a real setup. And I remember her being very sweet. And I didn't feel like she looked down on me or, I did feel like she was a very genuine, very nice person. So I'm really glad that shined through in this interview. If you have any more questions for Danessa, if you're dying for a follow-up, you can follow her on social media. You can join like the hundreds of thousands of people that already do follow her. I would love to do a follow-up episode. So if you do have questions, please shoot them my way on the various social media channels that are in the description. And I'll try to see if I can get her back on the show. Let's hope. Our next episode is a really great one for Black women. We're going to talk to a hair loss expert, Courtney Foster, and she is going to talk to us all about hair breakage, hair issues, scalp issues, detoxing the scalp, all kinds of things that are really, really important for Black women. Here's a quick preview.
And I feel like when a lot of hair companies are explaining just products to consumers, they're not explaining, well, what is the science behind it? Where does hair loss start? Where does the health of the hair, where does that start? And that all begins at the root of the hair. So you can put anything topically on your scalp, but if your scalp is not cleansed enough to open that hair follicle, nothing is really penetrating. And we're kind of defeating the purpose of we want hair to grow when it's not really getting to where the place it needs to grow.
And she answers questions, again, that came directly from you. And it's going to be a very informative episode. So I can't wait to air that. That comes out next Thursday. We've switched to every other Thursday for episodes. So be on the lookout. Please subscribe. iTunes, Stitcher, Mixcloud. I don't know. We're all over the place. All the links are below. Any place you can listen to a podcast, Scandalous Beauty is there. Trust. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you for the next episode. Peace.